Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about settler colonialism. I know we did talk about this topic in our discussion, and we did read a little bit about it in chapters 4 and 5. But I wanted to go in a little bit deeper and define what settler colonialism is and how it affected people in the past and how it affected today's world. So we have colonialism, and there's different types of colonialism. Settler colonialism is one of those that falls under this category. Here I listed a few of them. There's more, but these are like the most top ones, like the most important ones. So we have colonization, which is a process whereby countries were ruled and dominated by a distant power. Internal colonialism is the imbalances that occur when internal divisions between regions of a country or ethnic groups create inequalities of various types. We have external colonialism, which is the process by which a metropole imposes its will and authority on a space or territory, yet does not settle permanently. Then we have settler colonialism, which is a form of exogenous domination typically organized or supported by an imperial authority, which maintains a connection or control to the territory through the settlers' colonialism. When I was looking up settler colonialism, I did stumble upon different definitions. I know in the discussion we had an AI generate a definition for us, and all the definitions are a little bit different. They're worded different, but they all hit the same points. I do have a few different definitions on here, but they all mean the same thing. So what is settler colonialism? Settler colonialism occurs when colonizers invade and occupy territory to permanently replace the existing society with the society of the colonizers. So in chapters 4 and 5, it talks about how Jackson, that was the president back in the day, he took away a lot of indigenous land. So he committed genocide. He killed many indigenous people in order to be able to take this land away. So in order to take this land away, he had to kick these people out of their land that they owned, and they had to go look for other land to be able to create a new living, to be able to have a new home, because these European white men were coming and taking away their land without permission, without an agreement, without anything. So here it says, we can begin by defining settler colonialism as it relates specifically to indigenous peoples of North America. The goal of settler colonization is the removal and erasure of indigenous people in order to take the land for use by settlers in perpetuity. Not only did this happen in the US, but it happened in many other countries. As we can see here in this map, the parts in red are the countries that where settler colonialism was a form of colonization to take away land and make it their land. Basically, they were taking away land that was owned by other tribes, races, ethnicities, whatever, and they took these lands away for themselves. Who are the settler colonizers and how did it begin? So basically, the settler colonizers are people who are non-indigenous, but mainly those who were taking away indigenous lands, which were the English and the white Europeans. They were mainly the ones who had this white supremacy and went on to take away lands that didn't belong to them. So, as we know, settler colonialism was major against the indigenous people, committing genocide by murdering, killing them for their lands. So, settler colonialism destroys to replace. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you read chapters 4 and 5, it talks about how President Andrew Jackson was taking away these lands without any type of permission, without having an agreement with these indigenous people. He just went and just basically took them out of their homes and kicked them out, took their land for himself and for these white English and European people. So President Andrew Jackson, sorry, is a prime example of what it is like to have white supremacy power when he signed the Indian Removal Act in May 1830, which authorized the migration of the Native Americans, which is known as the Trail of Tears. So basically, during this Trail of Tears, elderly, babies, families of indigenous people were traveling far distances to be able to go look for new land for them to settle down with their families. During the journey, many people died. Thousands and thousands died because the weather was terrible. Some of them, it mentions in the chapters that some of them didn't have shoes. They just left with whatever they had on. It was super cold. Elderly died. They got sick. Children got sick. Babies got sick. So this comes to show us that it didn't matter if they owned it. White supremacy just came and took them and took their land. So the question comes up, does settler colonialism still exist today? Not necessarily settler colonialism, but colonization does exist in all parts of the world. There's parts of the world where lands are still being taken from these tribes, these races, these different ethnicities by white supremacy and trying to make those lands theirs. So the U.S. was basically built by settler colonialism because all these lands were taken away from all these different people, and the lands that we're living on today belong to indigenous people.